Hello, everyone, and welcome to the newest episode of the Need to Nerd podcast. I am your host, Spencer, and I am joined by a man who understands the value of a human soul, Wes Singleton.
But I don't understand the value of openings that if people are watching our shows out of order on YouTube, immediately don't help very much in figuring out what's going on or what order they were released on.
What does that matter?
It doesn't, but certainly for some number of people who watch our show, this is not the newest episode, and I welcome you people too.
Sure. What are we talking about?
How I'm awesome and I value human souls.
But this is the newest episode.
Yeah.
We're currently...
Yeah, but in a future, someone could be watching this show because they're going back through our videos, and this isn't the newest episode.
I would say I bet you're fun at parties, but I know you're pretty decent at parties, so...
I proved it.
I mean, it's fine. It's just like... What a weird way to ruin my intro. Anyway, this week we're talking about human souls in the form of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, what many consider to be the standard of anime. And we're excited to talk about it. So, before we do, don't forget that you can talk about anime over in our Discord if you like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, or if you like Full Metal Alchemist not Brotherhood for some reason, if you like Avatar, Dragon Ball, whatever animated featurette or feature or show you've been enjoying, go talk about it in our Discord. You can find the link to that in the show notes, whether you're listening on the podcast platform of your choice, or if you're on the YouTubes, or wherever you're consuming this content, you can find it there. You can also support the show directly by smashing the like button on YouTube, leaving a review, or if you want to give back to the show financially, head on over to patreon.com/Heezy Game Media. Check that out. We are open and listening to any feedback that people want to offer on how we can make that the best experience possible. And we will be having, Patreon-only episodes, Q&A episodes, stuff like that. So head on over, check it out. But let's get into the show. Don't want to waste people's time, West. A podcast review of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Not season 1 or season 2. For what it's worth, I think this show breaks down into one season, or maybe it's 4 seasons. I don't even know. How do they break this show down, West?
There are 4 parts.
4 parts, but there's not seasons, right? Like,
there are 5 opening themes, which I guess could also mean something depending on how.
Yeah, but like some animes have 2 openings per season.
The best part about this show is it's exactly 1 unit, and it's more bingeable than your average shonen. So, if you haven't watched it yet, you're only like 60 episodes away from finishing, as opposed to your average 500.
Yeah, I think, is there 62 episodes, or it looks like there is 62 episodes. West,
possibly 64. I'm not really certain how this works.
For our nerd fact of the week this week, before I let you hype up the show, did you know you cannot swim and have automail?
I thought that was a One Piece thing where you couldn't have a power in that show and swim at the same time. But swimming in automail makes sense, depending on what automail you use. Heavy and rusty.
Yeah, it's something that the creator has talked about, that you can't swim in automail. So we now know some weaknesses of those with automail. With that being said, West, hype this up for us.
All right, so this one's easy because hopefully I don't need to sell you any more on Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, because everyone and their mother has hyped it up already to you. But assuming I'm the first person who has the privilege of telling you should go watch this incredible show, here are the reasons that you should watch this show. I've already mentioned it's just a reasonable length show. Under 100 episodes, complete package. It's done. You never have to worry about when the next season's coming out, or having your heart broken by when the next season's coming out. Oh, also, it will break your heart. I don't know of a single show that gets people to cry as easily as Full Metal Alchemist. This show will have all of your emotions up in a royal the whole time. And a big part of that is that there's just some incredible character growth that happens over the course of the show. Also, awesome fight scenes, just incredible character designs. I love the bad guys in this show. Every single villain design, whether or not they stay a villain for the whole show or not, is just a chef's kiss of a character. But the reason you should watch Full Metal Alchemist is because why haven't you yet?
Let's get into our first thoughts. Try to go back to the first time we watched the show, West, and remember what it was like, what our thoughts were. I'll go first on this. I thought, oh my gosh, this is so much. Every 18-minute episode felt like so much. The first time I watched this, I was watching it with my wife. It was one of the shows we watched in bed together, just kind of to spend time together. And she would get so mad at me because she wanted to watch like 3 episodes a night. And like I needed to often process. Like if we got through 2 episodes, like I needed to process something. I can't keep watching this.
Yeah.
It's so funny because a lot of people tell me they binge the show, and I'm like, how did you do that? Other than having to know what happens next, like. It just so much happens that I emotionally had to process pretty often what was happening in the show.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
What about you?
Oh man, I think that my first thoughts here are like this is sweet magic system because like it has this like tight structure to it. It says what you can and cannot do with it, but also every character makes it their own. I think that's really fun. I think that those types of magic systems tend to work really well and lead to like good character design, and no one has to explain their powers for 20 minutes in an anime, which is always helpful for making sure that 94,000 things happen every episode. Fights are just gorgeous. Fantastic fight choreography. I love like the smooth motion of like the brothers and how they like transmute rock whenever they're fighting. I think it always looks really cool. And just whether it's good feelings, sad feelings, hard to understand feelings, this show just keeps hitting you so hard. You can never really like feel like you're fully back up on your feet with the show because they're going to get you again somehow.
Yeah, I think that but it often surprised me. Things were surprising, but not like. I don't know. Some shows like try to shove the surprise in your face, and they're like to make you feel smart when you see it coming. I don't know if this show does that, but it also doesn't try to be like too mystery. It was just like, how do I explain this? It just felt like it had something to say about lots of different topics, and it used character growth and good characters and good dialogue to portray that.
Yeah, it's such a clean show.
Let's wrap up our initial impressions here, and our first thoughts, and let's go on to the part where we're gonna talk about the show. And the show finished a while ago, so hopefully you've seen it. You're enjoying this. If not, pause this. I hope we've sold you on the show. Come back, and as Wes says, you're gonna have more fun watching Full Metal Alchemist than you are gonna be listening to this podcast. So.
Yeah. I mean, this show finished like I don't know. 2014 was when it finished airing in the United States of America. Like, seriously, you've had your time. Go watch this show. If you like anime and you haven't seen this yet, do you like anime? And I'm not a gatekeeper about a lot of things, but this show is so good. Go watch this show, please.
Let's talk about our overall impressions. I want to talk about kind of this high level look into what we love about this thing that we're reviewing. And usually we break these things down into these season by season things. And in this one, it's the entire anime, West. So why don't you go first on this? Why don't you give me your kind of overall high level look into this show?
Sure. I think that the highest level take on the show that I thought about as I was kind of thinking about the show is that at no point are our like main characters, the characters we care about, is their goal to become the most powerful anything, which I feel like is so often the goal. Like they want to become the best, the most powerful, the most recognized, right? They always want to become the most of the best of something in anime, and that's just not the goal of any character in this show, except one, I guess. There's only one character who wants to become the most bestest, the extra most bestest. They want to become a pepperoni pizza. And that's the main villain of the show. But everyone else, they want to answer these important questions. This show is about like searching for answers, which I think is such an incredible thing to write an anime about. And it is so compelling because the choices the characters make really make sense because they're always pursuing their motivations, which is to answer these questions. And even when they have to like undermine their morality to do it, they often still do it because the questions they have are so compelling. And then there's this amazing cast. Every character feels so real, so vibrant. They can make you fall in love with a character so quickly and then take them away so fast. And all the villains, I think, like everyone but like the actual homunculus, by the end, I really feel for them. Like I even like feel for Pride by the end. He is in a little bit just a scared child.
Yeah, I think that they do a good job of showing the depth of the villains, even if like the depth is, how do I want to say, even if the depth is shallow. It's kind of hard to explain what I'm trying to say here.
I mean, I think Envy is a great example of this, right? Envy is like an incredibly like shallow concept of a character, right? Like I want what you have and what you have is bad, right? Like I have to prove that everything I have is great, but like the way that like Envy perishes in the show is still so like it's so good. Just that like, come on, you're humans, you're weak, you have to start fighting against each other. Something will definitely turn my way. Oh, it's not.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah, I think
they're pathetic after a fashion, and that might be what makes them like so like they're pitiable at the end, which
yeah.
I think is part of what makes them so relatable.
I think that my overall impression of the show was one of I get it. I wouldn't say that Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is like the best piece of media that I've ever consumed, but it does tell a compelling story about compelling problems. You know, about the value of human life, about the right and wrong in a lot of ways, about fascism, about, I mean, it tells a lot of about genocide, about, I mean, there's a lot of depth to this show. In a lot is packed into the 62 episodes. It talks about, I mean, it talks about God, right? Like the premise of the show of these two brothers who have messed with the nature of things and of life and death, and are suffering the consequences, and also trying to do right by the things, by their wrongs. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah. Definitely because our characters start out at this like place of, like they're at they're at a zenith of their careers from the perspective of others, right? Like they're newly sponsored state alchemists. They're like awesome. They have the ability to transmute without circles or whatever. But at them, they're just at their crushing lowest. That they have so far to go to redeem themselves. Is so different than most animes, right? Like it's such a different story. So the search for how do we undo our greatest mistake is a very different anime than the search for How can I get everyone to acknowledge me, or how can I have the best adventure I want to, or all of these other like well-known animes, their goals, right? Or how can I save the world even, right? These folks, they're saving the world just happened to be part of their narrative, right? But the first goal was always to save themselves, which I thought was so incredibly lifting.
Let's talk about favorite characters. There's a lot of characters to care about in this. Obviously, you have Eric and or Edward, sorry, and Alphonse. But I think that for me, West, there are episodes where Alphonse is my favorite, by like quite a big margin. But I think that my favorite character is Winry. I don't know. It's one of those two.
Yeah, Al and Winry both carry so much of like the emotion in the show, the growth of
Did
the
I
show.
say Alfonso, by the way? It's just Alphonse.
Yeah, I know you didn't say Alfonso. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Either way, Al and Winry are probably tied for me.
Yeah.
The thing about Al is that I don't think we have a favorite episode segment, so maybe I'll just say this in this one. Or I think it's like early in the show, like maybe episode 5 or something, where they meet these killers that also have their souls on.
Al and Barry are, yeah, I think that's such an incredible. Barry the Chopper is like
Yeah.
an incredible dynamic that Al has.
Yeah, and it was I just really, I think it's the episode after where he's afraid to talk about how he's feeling, and he and Edward get into a fight, and then they actually get into a fight, and Edward beats him, and like I don't know, there was this like real brotherly love that you felt, that I kind of talked about like how his body isn't his humanity, his soul isn't. I mean, the connection between them is his humanity, and the connection between people is their existence and what gives people a place in the world. And I think Al gets that better than the other characters in the show by the end of the show.
Yeah. No, it's true that I think Al certainly is like the person who like starts with like maybe the most naive understanding of the world, and therefore has kind of the most room to grow over the course of the story. But he's also like but there's like also this like old soul wisdom there of just like I'm sort of on a second lease of life, right? Like there's no doubt about it. My world is profoundly different than it was before. And I think back to when he like breaks down and really labels his his desire to achieve his goals for his own benefit, like really from the point of view of I don't want to spend another night alone. I want to actually be able to sleep, is so powerful.
Yeah.
And such a profound way to sum up the loss that he's experienced.
And experiencing, right? He still goes through it.
Yes.
Every day. Why don't you talk about your thoughts on Winry?
Oh, sure. I think that what I love about Winry is that her role in this story is incredibly high impact, and it never feels like she is less than, because she's not a combatant, right? That's not her job. That's not her role. That's not part of what's going on, right? It's not this like, well, why did they write this woman weaker than everyone else? They didn't write her weaker. They wrote her way stronger in different ways, right? Instead of having this like, because again, the show's not about this comparison of power, which I think is so key to understanding what's going on here, right? It's about what are the questions you want answered and what are you willing to do to answer them. And Winry's key question over the course of the show is, she's got two of them. The first is, how can I keep those Elric brothers happy?
And safe.
And safe, yeah. And then the second is, what happened to my parents? How can I find closure about what happened to my parents?
Yeah.
And I think that, obviously this incredible crux moment of her is when she's pointing a handgun at Scar, the murderer of her parents. And, like, on one hand, I don't love that there's like this innocence of like killing or not killing to be protected there, but like this real question to be asked of like, what does revenge mean? What are the benefits of revenge? And stands in huge contrast to, I think, some of the other revenge plots of the show, because it takes a different route. But like, Winry's a breath of fresh air every time she's on screen. I am just tickled by the part of hers and Alphonse's relationship, which is the "why did you break my really cool stuff I've made?"
Right.
I think that's just hilarious. Uh, and her connections with every character they meet are so human, because they're not on this like we fought together to understand each other. They're the we baked together to understand each other level
Right.
of like real relatable interaction. And I think it's just so amazing.
Yeah, you mentioned our next segment is favorite storylines, and you mentioned one of the two of mine, which was Winry and Scar and that dynamic. So I won't dive too deep into that, other than just saying that I think that Winry poses interesting questions for us, and I like that about her character and about that story, and also Scar poses interesting questions for us too, and like about PTSD, about things going on. Like there's just a lot, I think, that
Scar is a true example of a character for whom like your measure as a person is not your greatest mistake.
Right. And then
everyone kind of gets judged by in this show, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that my other favorite storyline in this, for what it's worth, is that of their teacher, and like just kind of you kind of get to know more and more about her, mostly through the beginning of the show. But I think that I'm trying to find her name.
Izumi Curtis.
There we go, Izumi. But it is kind of once again that question of what is the value of a human life, and what are the pains, and what are the things that we're willing to go through to, I don't know, save it, or not even just save it, but like, I don't know, it talks a lot about loss in interesting ways through lots of different perspectives in this show.
Yeah.
And I think that hers, Winry's, Scar's, the brothers, like, they all are experiencing different type of loss, and it is a motivator across the show for lots. I mean, even Chimera Butthead Dad, right? His like, they're every but like, do you know what I mean? It's the show certainly shows you different things that can happen when you have trauma and loss in your life, and different responses, different, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's true. And some of them are really like positive, of like, we lost this, so we're going to protect all that we have, or I lost this, so I'm going to destroy everything, right? Like, and that razor edge as well, right? Like, and the way to experience loss that I really think is an incredible story is that of Roy Mustang, who I only learned tonight is voiced by Travis Willingham. And his main opponent in season 1 is his wife, Laura Bailey. They are stars and actors on the one of the most popular Dungeons and Dragons podcasts, Critical Role. So and are well-known voice actors, but was stoked to make that connection. But Roy Mustang, his quest to learn, right? The fact that he asks every single homunculus he meets for the entire series, did you kill Hughes? And then that is the thing that he needs to know the answer to, and that he trusts them to give him the right answer on, or true answer on, which is wild. I think is incredible, actually. And then that's how he moves forward, right? Like, if Wrath had just said, yeah, I killed Hughes, like, Roy would have done an entirely different thing than he does for the entire second half of the show. And like, this quest for revenge both guides him to get closer to the source, right? Like, it leads him closer to where he wants and into his greater part of the narrative of the saving everyone part, but also leads to the point where, like, he almost could, in fact, just like end everything when he finally meets Envy, and they have their knockdown drag out fight. But man, it's such a like systematic way of going about your revenge, right? It's not I'll kill anyone who's associated with it. It's not I'll just break everything around me. It's I'm going to find the specific person who did this within this greater organization, and that's the target I have. Is such a interesting bit of this story. But the way that he gets pulled out of it being this relationship with Riza Hawkeye, but also like that Hawkeye almost just like trusts him to, like, when actually faced with that decision, that's what he's going to do anyways, because the person he is taking revenge for wasn't the sort to do that, is such an incredible feature of that story as well.
Let's move on to Could Be Betters. And, you know, if you haven't listened to the show before, Could Be Betters are not a chance for us to tear down something or something like that. They're just things that, you know, maybe we've thought of while watching or reading or consuming content where it's like, oh, you know what, this could have been a little bit better. It's a chance to reflect, not a chance to bring down stuff. And I'll go first on this one. And I actually know why this could be better exists, and I'll get into that as part of mine. But man, the first time I watched this, and even some of my most recent watch throughs, having those really silly animation moments during really intense scenes really takes you out of the show. Like, it literally removes me from the show. Where it was...
Yeah, that's really true.
And I get it. I understand the point of it is that otherwise the show is just always really, really intense, which it already is. But I wish that they didn't insert them into important moments. Like, I wish that there was some silliness between those moments, not literally taking... Like, it honestly is so jarring for me as the person consuming the content to be really in this moment and then all of a sudden have Wiggly Arms McGee flying across the screen making some joke. And it's like, can we... I don't know. I don't want the anime to take itself too seriously, but at the same time, it's like, this was serious, and now I'm out of the moment. Like, now I'm not in this show anymore.
Although it's interesting because I think a lot of the fight scenes are not the most serious parts of the overall, like, encounter.
Sure, but I'm not just talking about the fight scenes, but we're like, even in dialogue where somebody like, they'll be having a very serious conversation and somebody calls Edward short, and then like his face blows up and he's got fangs and stuff, and it's like, what just happened? Like, and it's jarring for me. And I remember texting former co-host Mason Clark about that when I was watching the first time. It's like, dude, I love this show, but I really hate when they do this.
Sure.
And it did not change in my later watch throughs. It actually still...
Yeah, I don't know if it was something that, like, I have, like, actually, like, spent time being annoyed by thus far. And I wonder if that will change.
I know. I wonder if I broke the glass. I wonder if I broke the glass for you.
I wonder as well.
Sorry if I did. But yeah, that's like my main could be better for it. I feel like I had problems with is it Envy?
Yeah.
Who's the one that turns into the worm? I'm trying to remember.
Envy.
Yeah, I had some problems with Envy's. I don't know. Envy was an interesting one, in like lots of different ways, but I also like Envy, so it's hard to like pinpoint what my could be better was. Anyway, that's mine. What about you?
I mean, this is not necessarily a could be better. It's definitely a complaint. Why is my heart so broken after what might be called season 1, right? Like 15 episodes into this show, like heart is in shambles. There have been so many things that just like absolutely destroyed me. Which is, you know, both really good and like they could have spaced out some of those things, right? Like the fact that both the death of Maze Hughes and the Chimera incident are so early in the anime puts a lot of the emotional weight, like the things that like people who know the show still talk about to this day. Maybe that's good because it means that people have watched only a little bit of it can relate. But man, there are some parts of this story that like I don't even know what I'm complaining
Dude,
about.
I think that's episode 3 for what it's worth. It's either
Chimera thing.
It's either 2 or 3.
I don't. Yeah, the show moves so fast. It feels like it's, you know, like way deeper than that. But yeah,
That's what I'm saying though. Like the whole like every episode is just. Also,
yeah. I mean,
in my
pacing is really advanced, but
in my like headcanon, that Chimera episode is 2 episodes long, and it's not.
it's like 10 minutes of one episode.
Yeah. But I can get behind that could be better. There's a lot of front end.
No, it's true. Like the trauma is like on the front because then it can get referenced over and over and over again to keep the characters kind of on the plot beats. But I do think that if you're going to tell such an expansive story as this one, but tie it up to such little screen time, every bit of like focusing attitude you can have is actually really powerful.
Yeah.
But it does bring up the why this like weird cartoonish gag stuff in scenes that it doesn't belong in as well.
Let's go on to Lovitz, and I'll let you go first on this one. What are some of your huge Lovitz for this show?
I actually love I love anime characters who like have these like interesting interactions with like a description they get all the time, because I think it actually reflects some real people. Like, you know, if you're always like, if people's first interactions with you are like, oh, you're short, or oh, your hair is green, right? Like you're gonna just like lose it at some point, and it's not going to necessarily be on the person who did it the most times. It's just going to be when you lose it.
For what it's worth, also you have Al short in the show notes. I assume you mean Edward.
Oh yeah, calling Ed short, I do mean that. Yes.
For what it's worth, I don't have a problem with his problem with being called short. I have a problem.
No, totally. Where it gets placed and.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I love Gluttony. I think Gluttony's such a funny character. I love anything he does. I think that
he's the one that's always asking if he can eat everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's funny.
He's very entertaining.
I think his death is like one of my favorite parts of the whole show.
Oh my gosh, what a nightmarish situation that one is. That whole scene of fighting Pride in the forest is actually just wild. That's such a good bit of plot. I love Mei Ling, I think is her name. I love May's little panda. I think that thing's really cute. Barry the Chopper is just an awesome character, and I think that his relationship with Alphonse is awesome from beginning to end. I love Major Armstrong. Louis Armstrong.
You talking about Piccolo?
Hmm?
You talking about Piccolo?
Piccolo's green, dude.
No, isn't that Piccolo? I'm pretty sure that's Piccolo.
Oh, actor?
No, it is Piccolo. I'm just
voice
kidding.
actor. Sweet. That's awesome. And I actually love how heavy this show weighs on my heart, right? Like how many parts of the show are so sad. I think it's truly to the show's credit. I think that the fact that it can it's not just like easy tear jerks either, right? It's like actually there's like some profound sadness the show has thrown at me. I think all of that is stuff I love. Oh, I haven't gotten to talk about Greed yet. I think Greed is such a cool character as well.
Talk about it.
I think that Greed is like neat enough to be enticing when we like first see him get destroyed by Fuhrer Bradley. But like the way that Greed interacts with a host that can fight back and actually has like skills that he doesn't have throughout that is so fascinating. And I also love that like Greed's motivation is so concise, so obvious
Yeah.
that like it gives him this like he's not pigeonholed, right? Like because of how specific his motivation is, a wide variety of circumstances can attune to what motivates him in any given moment, and he can respect his motivation in others, and that actually leads to him being this like really cool ally, but also enemy, but also like who knows what's going to happen here. And I just think that like of all of the homunculuses, Greed is like the one that like could have been villainized like really easily because of a variety of factors, but instead like feels so human by the end.
Well, I think that all of the homunculus do a good job of humanizing, even though it's very clear that like they're one of like the seven deadly sins or whatever. And you're supposed to compare them to like the bad parts of those things. You also do get to humanize like moments of your feelings of those things, right? Like I've been greedy before, I've been lustful before, I've been envious before. I'm fat as can be right now, so like I've clearly been gluttonous before, and I think that I'll go into one of my love-its is one of my love-its. We talk so much about this villains and how we rate them on the show and how much we like them on the show when they are doing things that we can agree with or that we can empathize with, or that even if we don't agree with the means to the end or whatever. But in this show, I don't agree with any of the villains.
Yeah.
But I still relate to the villains and and they do a good job of, when I say like they go deep on these shallow characters, I mean that like they bring out what is greed, what is envy, what is and that's really interesting. So that's one of my love-its.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I love all of these homunculuses dearly in a similar way to like the villains of Avatar that I love. But like not for the same reasons, not even a little bit.
I have some love-its. Obviously, I think that we would be doing the fans a disservice if we didn't mention Mustang in that sewer. Like, oh my gosh. It was one of the most intense episodes of anime I've ever watched. Like, I didn't know what
against envy or against lust?
I mean, just every time he's in a fight, it feels that way, right? Yeah. It is. I do think that specifically it's envy. I don't know. Both are, I think the envy one was envy. I don't know. Probably. I keep flip flopping now. Either way,
great fights.
Yeah. I just think that Mustang has this aura about him that the show needs, because I don't think the Elric brothers bring that at all, and he definitely does. My other love-it was kind of taking the government back over, that whole sequence of the radio, of the buildings, of that's a huge love for me. Also, anytime that Olivia Mira Armstrong is on screen is like a huge love for me. At first, I hated her as a character. I thought she was so
cold.
Not cold.
Strong. No.
Pompous? No.
Yeah. No.
She's like super full of herself, but then you understand what she's going for. This show does a really good job of making you understand characters. And so, like, while I would never be the type of leader that she is, I understood why she was that type of leader. It was also really funny because I was making a bunch of Game of Thrones references while watching the show for the first time, and those like the whole thing, like I was like, she's the head of the Night's Watch, like just a whole bunch of jokes. But
Yeah.
I loved her character, and by the end of it, I mean, I don't know, I think that all of those episodes, like that mini arc, was really enticing, and
Yeah.
she did a great job of it. And then I would say, I don't know, I really love Edward and Winry's relationship. I think that it's really important to acknowledge that not every relationship has to be like hyper romantic, lovey-dovey. Yes, sometimes it's just about, you know, your best friend and wanting that person to be happy and loving them the way that you love them, and that's enough for them. And I think that they do a really good job of that. And people like to poo-poo on any relationship that's not like uber cutesy, or that's not to the extreme of theirs. Like some people, this is the type of relationship they need. But like, I think that they're very cute, and I like their relationship. I like seeing best friends end up together.
Yeah, I think it's a good one because it's like telegraphed the whole time, right? Like Winry knows that she's in love with Alphonse, like end of season 2 or whatever.
Edward.
Or Edward. I know, I'm mixing them up real bad in my head. I think you did it and then I have it or something. Or maybe I just got it spontaneously.
When did you?
No,
you wrote it in the show notes.
Yeah, no. We can blame this one entirely on me. This is all my fault.
Either way,
I think that there's just it's a very wholesome relationship. It also like goes places, right? Like it doesn't. It's not static. It's not like this unrequited crush for so long that then miraculously comes around at the end. It's not like will they or won't they. It's like they will but when. Oh, it happens. Cool, great.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, also like the I won't make Winry cry again. Sentiment is such a good one.
Yeah, it's really good. I also want to mention Scar as a Levitt, just as character growth more than anything. I think that that's an interesting story.
I mean, if that guy can learn to forgive himself.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn about that type of stuff from this show. Any huge Levitts that haven't been mentioned that you want to mention?
Oh man!
Oh man, the show was so boring. You just yawning.
Yeah, just yawn, ready to go to bed. Sloth is cool, I guess.
I wanna mention the specific episodes where you get to see, is it Jotunheim? How do you say his name?
Hohenheim.
Hohenheim. Those episodes where you see his past, those were really good episodes.
Sure.
I think there's two of them, if I remember correctly. It's funny because I actually just sometimes go to my favorite episodes of this anime. It's not one that I like because it's not broken down into seasons. I don't go like, at least it's not on Funimation. I don't know how it is on other streaming services. It might be like on.
I think Netflix lists it as like part 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and stuff. But...
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I think I did watch part 1 on Netflix not that long ago too. And like right now on Funimation, I'm doing a full rewatch. I'm on episode 21. So
it has it in 5 parts in like 13 episode chunks or so.
Got it.
Which adds up.
But yeah, I think that those episodes are really good. I think that it's interesting that this show made you cry, because I don't know that I like cried a ton outside of Al moments. I'm gonna be one of the people that says I actually didn't cry the first time I watched. The thing is I get so mad at the dad that I'm not capable of crying.
Sure, you're just like...
I just want to kill him.
For me, it's Hughes. I think it's like Hughes' funeral that probably gets...
Oh, that one... I actually watched that episode the other day, and that one was That one was in my chest. His daughter gets me really bad.
Yeah.
Where she's like,
I mean, how could it
why
not?
are they putting dirt on Daddy? Like, yeah. Let's rate it. So, we're rating the whole thing, not season by season. Wes, what are you giving this?
I give it a 5.
Snapping off that 5.
Oh yeah.
It is perfect in every way. An anime
That's
that
the best part
everyone.
about not getting to rate as seasons, right? Is I don't have to figure out like whether or not the things that aren't the best about this do anything for me. It's just like, how do I feel when I think about it? 10 out of 10 would recommend to anyone.
Yeah, I would give this a 4.5. And there's a few reasons for me. One, I don't think that this is one. So first of all, 4.5. I think that I would recommend the show to anyone. I think that it's that good. Like, I don't even think you need to be like an anime lover to love this show, because it doesn't have a ton of the anime tropes. Like, it is anime, but I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's not about power level or about, like, I don't know, a lot of the shonen problems it doesn't have. But I legitimately, it's funny because I don't like things too dark, but this wasn't dark enough for what it could have been for me. I don't like, I didn't like some of the voice acting. I've watched a lot of the sub to try to see if I liked that better, but like some of the voice acting in this was just off for me. I don't know. I don't know why I can't give this a 5. The thing is, it's in my like top 5 anime. Like, I believe
in the
it
10
is.
years since I've watched it, it's never dropped out of my top 5. I've
Yeah.
never forgotten about it being in my top 5.
Like, it's definitely in my top 5. But like, even today, I had a sick day today, so I apologize if on this episode I'm like coming across not feeling my best, because I'm not. But like, I'm watching this show today, and even today they have these moments where like I'm just completely ripped out of the scene I'm watching, and it really bugs me. Like, it is a huge deterrent, and I don't know why, but that it is that big of a problem for me that I can't give it a 5.
Yeah.
I actually wonder if they didn't have that problem, if it would just be my favorite anime ever, and I would just
Like if it's actually not close.
Yeah, like, because I don't hate those moments when they are funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Edward is screaming at somebody in a normal setting, and he, gets his fangs and he's freaking out. It doesn't bug me then. It doesn't take me out of the moment. It only bugs me when it's happening in those serious moments.
Yeah.
Like, it happens like literally, I think like 15 seconds after Barry and Al's first conversation. Maybe less than that. Maybe less than 15 seconds. Where like you're still processing what Al is going through, and all of a sudden somebody's making some ridiculous joke. Somebody's face explodes. I like, it's just I feel like it feels like I'm being nitpicky, but it actually took me out of it.
Yeah. No, I think that's perfectly fair. Also, like, anime humor is like one of the things that if we could just like the chibi in these moments, and the like this thing's always funny, like if like that was all just sucked out of anime in general, I think it would be better, right? Like,
yeah.
It's hard to say why it's still there other than tradition. Maybe that's like a manga thing that like just doesn't translate as well. I'm not sure.
Also, if I'm being honest, not all of the OPs are bops on this one. So
yeah, I think that watching it on Netflix as opposed to Crunchyroll really makes me not notice it. But the fact that Netflix makes it so easy for me to skip the opening and I never am bothered by that is telling.
I was just kidding. I'm like dragging this down at the end of the show because I actually think it's just a great anime. Everybody should watch it. I am really, really glad that I got to watch it with Devonair too. I think it is straight up just her favorite anime of all time.
if only to not give you any satisfaction about My Hero.
No, she just really, really enjoys it. I think she also really likes Fire Force so far, but like I think this one is definitely we actually talked about her favorite animes like 2 months ago, and I think this definitely came down for her number one. And so, you know, I think it's so easy to relate to this anime in different ways and in different episodes, and it covers really hard and interesting topics. Like during the pandemic, I watched, what a lot of people consider one of the best animes of all time in Neon Genesis Evangelion, and like this is so much better than that anime for me. Like it's not close.
Yeah, I could not really get into Neon Genesis. That one was not easy for me to think about doing. So
yeah, but if you want to rate us a 5, head on over to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're listening on your podcast. Give us a review. It actually helps the show a ton. And while we're not as good as the Elric brothers, I still think we're pretty good, Wes. We're pretty good. I do still need transmutation circles, but other than that, we're getting there.
yeah.
You can like and sub on YouTube. You can find me at Spencer13H. You can find West at East_monotone.
Yep. MONOTONNE.
You can find the show at Need to Nerd Pod. I am really glad we got to do this episode today, West. I think that, if there's one thing that I would say to people about Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, is that don't watch the movies afterwards, because you'll be really, really confused.
Also, just don't do necromancy, kids.